Hello. Hi, everybody. Hold on, is my microphone working? It's been a hot second, hasn't it? Good morning, Shazzy. Thank you so much for the resub. Appreciate you. How you doing? Hi, Ouija. How are ya? Good to see ya. Look at all those ropes. That's right. So, I don't know. This is gonna be kind of janky. Also, you all in chat are just like on the screen over here. At the moment, you're like, I don't know if you can see. I guess you can't see my... Oh yeah, you can. You can see my cursor. You're kind of like over here. Just on screen. I don't know. I'll turn the on-screen chat off if I have to, but I figured you would want to see these as big as possible, so we're not throwing them into the overlay today. Also, feel free to creep on all of the stuff that you can see on the sides of the screen. You probably won't be able to dox me. I don't know. You're in my Google Drive right now. My Google Drive and my Google Photos. So, hey Blue Tongue, nice to see ya. How are ya? I put my drink too far away. Here we go. So, I have no plans for today. We're gonna look at pictures of boats. And I'm gonna tell you things that happened, and I'm sure that will just devolve into telling goofy stories. Enjoying the day off. Congratulations. Ooh, and a Tuesday as well? Assuming that it's Tuesday where you are. That's kind of a nice day to have off. It kind of breaks up the week a little bit. I don't necessarily like having Mondays off. You know? Like, if I'm gonna have a day off, I would rather it be, like, just a random weekday. Kind of give you a breather, you know? Oh, it's Veterans Day! Right! I forgot about that. I was gonna run errands today, then you have reminded me that the post office and the bank are not gonna be open. Fair. Yeah, I completely forgot. Now I feel kind of bad. So maybe more than just one person will have today off. In that case. So I have no music because I have videos to show and I didn't want 6 audio sources all playing on top of each other, you know. But the first thing that I thought to show, these are not in any particular order. Where is it? I think it might be this. Also, useful information, I suppose. Something to keep in mind as we watch these videos. You'll see that the vast majority of them are like 5 seconds. And the reason for that, of course, is because I'm on a boat. I'm either trying to stand because the waves are high, right? And I'm holding onto something with one hand and trying to like hold my camera and hit the video button and all that with just like my other one hand. Or I'm supposed to be working, right? So I can't like record for too long because everybody's like, hey, I would rather you be helping, right? So this trip, I guess, let me show you this because this is kind of funny also. This is the trip that we took. Oh, they have now departed further. It's still tracking the ship now. And they have gone. How far have they gone? Oh no, this is right. This is right. This is our little journey here. That's correct. So when we left, because we left from, if we can zoom in here, because I'm sure you can see this, right? I don't go away. I don't want whatever this is. Is it gonna say like what this is called? Oh, cool. We can get like a cute little view here. I didn't know that. Anyway, so you can see leaving port here, we left from Norfolk, which okay, can we take just like a quick detour real quick for people who live in the United States? It's Norfolk, right? Like Norfolk. Because I encountered one guy who called it Norfolk. And you know, I was like, okay, haha, funny older gentleman who called it Norfolk. That's goofy. And then I found two more people who called it Norfolk. And I was like, hold on a second. Am I the one who's wrong? Do you say this as Norfolk? So if anybody knows, tell me, please, because I feel stupid. I don't know. So anyway, we departed from here. And whatever, you can see our basic path here. But the point is, all of this was to catch the wind or to, you know, to go around these shoals or whatever. And then this journey, you can see we're tracing the wind and all that stuff. And we're heading into, we go around Cape Hatteras and we go into Charleston. And I really, really hope that it shows this. Once we got into Charleston Harbor. Oh, it doesn't do it anymore. That's sad. I left this open because I wanted to show you. It was just nonsense, and I will tell you more about what happened later, but this GPS tracker was like all over this bay, just zigzag back and forth. Because we had some events occur. That's how I've heard it vaguely, maybe. Am I the one who's wrong? It could be, I suppose. Oh no. So anyway, why did I bring that up? I don't remember why I brought that up. But yeah, so we started from Norfolk, apparently, and we headed down to Charleston, around Cape Hatteras, and through what's called the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Let's have just like a nice... I'm gonna mute this one so that I'm not... Well, you can have some ocean sounds. We can just have some nice vibes here of me continually hitting play on this video when it ends. We sailed around Cape Hatteras and through the place called the Graveyard of the Atlantic. It's where Edward Teach, also known as Blackbeard, ran aground. That's not how he died. He died because he was shot like 5 times. But, you know, that's a separate matter. So yeah, I mean, I have a ton of these just general, you know, sunset on the boat videos and whatever. But the kind of vibe, right? This ship, let me show you the ship, I suppose. Let me actually just look it up. Sullivan. This is the ship. Can we see the ship in the middle of the screen, please? Not don't give me cookies. Big ship. Where boat? There we go. There you go. You can have ship. This is the Dennis Sullivan. This is the ship that I was on. Yeah, she is a lovely lady. This maybe isn't the best possibility for a picture here. There we go. That's better. Centered in the screen here. Very large ship. You can see it's got 3 masts. Of interest is this triangular sail up here. This is called a rafie, and they're not super common. This is a schooner, if you're looking for the specific type of ship. So, I have friends who, you know, obviously I maintain contact with, who just, this is what they do. They're crew on these ships. I met the Dennis Sullivan for the first time in like 2011, I want to say. And I have a crew shirt from 2011 for Roseway, her sister ship. Roseway is a ship with, yeah, red sails. The lovely Roseway. Here we go. Behold the sweet lady. So they are both owned by the same people. And I have a Roseway shirt because that was the one I spent more time on in 2011. Regardless, I went on the Dennis Sullivan because I am a rig rat. I am a topman, which is the position on a ship that goes up into the sails. And I was, you know, they were going down through this fraught part of the Atlantic. And I was like, I'll help you. You know, I don't mind coming down to help you because, let's be real, this is gonna suck. This passage is going to suck through this specific part of the Atlantic because, I mean, obviously, you know, it's called the Graveyard of the Atlantic because ships sink there. There's shoals everywhere. The wind is unpredictable. We encountered extremely high waves, all things considered, on completely clear days. Because it was just the wind and it was just all of the agitation from all of the, like, shallows, you know? The waves are coming from 50 different directions at once because it's all just churned up. And for the first time in 23 years, I barfed. I finally gave in. And I was not the only one. A lot of the pro crew got seasick as well, which kind of indicates what the general environment was like, right? So I offered to come help as a topman to temporarily join the more permanent crew just for this stretch of the voyage. Meanwhile, the ship also, in order to earn money, offers guest spots. So people can pay, you know, whatever amount of money to join for a leg of a journey. And they're not really expected to do anything. They can help if they want to, but they're not really expected to do anything. And that's part of how the ship earns money to continue to maintain itself, right? You have these guest crew experiences. So I was there kind of as the in-between of, I'm here working as a topman and doing all of this other stuff that I specifically have skill in, like navigation. And I'm also kind of hanging out with the guest crew and teaching them, like, knots and stuff like that if they want to learn that. So I was like I was an in-between kind of person, right? So when I'm taking these videos, it's usually because I have an opportunity to take a break for a second because whatever we're doing, there's enough professional crew already doing it, and some of the guest crew is wanting to help. So I can stand behind for like 5 seconds and take a video or whatever. But yeah, so let me introduce you to the ship, I suppose. The first thing that I wanted to show you, which I thought was cool, and again, these videos are usually only like 5 seconds, but check out the flags once this decides to play, because it... Shush, Alvin. We got 4 flags flying up here. Pride flag, World Ocean School flag, Black Lives Matter flag, and then the flag in the back belongs to, oh boy, Menominee, I think is that true? I believe, I'm gonna totally guess, wait, it was almost there. Menominee, yes, a city in Michigan. Menominee, here we go. Menominee is a tribe, like a Native American tribe. And they donated the trees that made the Dennis Sullivan. And so the Dennis Sullivan is actually the only place outside of the Menominee Nation where you can see their flag. Nobody else flies it except for the ship, which I thought was cool. So yeah, we got Pride flag, we got Black Lives Matter flag, we got Menominee flag. You love to see it. So let's just have a look around the ship, right? This is where I slept. This is a bunk. This ship actually had bunks instead of hammocks, which is I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, I think I prefer the hammocks, even though this might look to you to be a little bit more comfortable. This is the main hold, which is where about 2/3 of the people sleep. There's another hold off of the galley and a front hold up in the forecastle that are almost exclusively crew, like permanent crew, like the mates and stuff. So here was tiny little me. This is my backpack and my secondary bag. Up here, I don't know, I think you can see my cursor. This is a Gumby suit, which is what if the ship is sinking, you know, you put it on and it helps you float. Everybody has one in their bunk. I'm trying to give you the sense of scale of how small this bunk is. Because remember, I'm less than 5 feet tall, right? And this bunk that I am sitting in is the width of my toes to my knees. So just hold up your leg, right? And measure the distance between your toes and your knee. And sleep in that, right? You've got like no space. It's extremely small. But I mean, it offers more privacy than a hammock, I guess. You know, hey, Dragon Sage, thank you for the lizard treats. How you been? Is this why a twin is called a twin? Because this is a single. This is like 0.75 of a single, right? So it's very small, right? And you can see even I, at 5 feet, can't stretch out with my bags also being in there. Because my leg isn't fully extended, and I'm already on the Gumby suit. So they're very, very small. And you can't put your bags outside of your bunk because the boat is moving. Your stuff is going to get flung everywhere. It's going to run into people. People are going to trip over it. You know. So it has to stay in there with you. And I packed knowing that. I packed knowing that we were going to have to stow things in our own private space. You know. So some of the poor guest crew. Because again, the guest crew are just here because they paid to have a nice, an interesting experience. Whether it was nice, we'll get to that. So the couple people who paid to be on the ship as kind of an experience thing, they packed too much. So I think I prefer the hammock because, put it in perspective, right? So also, from my perspective, looking down in this picture, the bow of the ship is to my right, and the stern, obviously, is to my left. So I am facing side to side on the ship. Everybody else is facing forward to back. Because those are the guest crew cabins. Well, yeah, not cabins, you know, bunks. I get like a crew bunk, which is why I'm facing a different direction. Every time the ship moves, my bunk moves with it. Compare that to a hammock, where you stay in one spot while the ship moves around you, right? Because the hammock is hanging. I like that better. That did not contribute to why I got seasick and barfed. That I will explain in a minute. But I liked it better. I don't know. Yeah, it wraps around you and holds you better, which is very true, Chassis. It's like comfy in that way. The only thing that I don't like about hammocks is that they're off the ground, which means it's cold. Because you have that air underneath you, you can never like create like a warm spot because your hammock is just like in the middle of the air. So it can be really, really cold. But I mean, even these bunks are cold. You know, at nighttime we were getting 40 degrees because the ship doesn't have heating or anything. You just rely on the bodies in the cabin to create some level of heat. So that was our lovely bunk there. I didn't look through these pictures. These are literally just the pictures I have. So some of these, I don't know. We're just going to flip through. This is just the deck of the ship, you know? Very lovely. We're looking toward the bow. Steven, I recognize this man, is going down into the main cabin, which is where we just were. Here's the galley. And this is the cook, Chad. Hello, Chad. Chad was an extraordinarily grumpy and sour man. That's just kind of how it goes. But he was a good cook. We always had good food insofar as it's possible to have good food on a ship, you know? Now, if you want to be working on a boat, down here, you can see like all these panels. They're not actually truly part of the floor, right? You can lift them, and you must lift them regularly, because that's where the bilge is. The bilge is the part of ship that kind of has water in it, so when water comes up onto the ship and it gets into the ship, it goes into the bilge. If your bilge is too full, you'll start to sink, right? So every now and then, when you're on watch, you gotta come in here, you gotta lift this up. This and many other points on the ship also. You have to lift this up, you have to look inside, and there'll be a giant ruler that's, you know, so many feet high. And as long as you're between, on the case of the Dennis Sullivan, it was usually if you're like between 6 and 8 feet, you're fine, you know. If the water is suddenly like really high, you run to the captain and you're like, bro, there's a problem, okay? But obviously, you know, we were fine. We were fine. And there's these bilge check spots like all over the ship. This is what's called a WQSB, Watch Quarter Station Bill. It's what describes what everybody does in an emergency situation. Also, can we appreciate that the captain's name was Sean Flynn? That's like the coolest ship captain name ever. When he was like 4, he was probably like, I'm gonna be a captain. Oh, I don't have Lars! I'm foolish. I'm sorry, Dragon Sage. This would have been the perfect stream for Lars, and I didn't turn it on. So Sean Flynn is like super cool captain name. But I was under third mate, Autumn, because I was on Charlie watch. And that's usually how it works. Chief mate or first mate takes Alpha watch, second mate takes Bravo watch, and third mate takes Charlie watch. So third mate, she was in charge of, you know, fire hoses and life rafts and that sort of thing. And I, as part of the whoopsie, that's some food. As part of Charlie Watch, would have been in the same role as the guest crew. We were deploying life rings, we were using fire hoses, we were throwing out Gumby suits to people. Everybody has a role. Food, yes. Chief mate's name is right out of Oberdin. You're right. You're right. I didn't even notice Brennan. He sadly did not. Was that the one that was wearing the beanie? Was Brennan the one in the beanie? Was Brennan actually Lars? I don't remember. But yeah, everybody has their roles. And we certainly did drills. It was very funny to watch the guest crew. Like, when you have a man overboard, you had Lars the whole time, right? When you have a man overboard situation, right? The ship is still moving when somebody goes overboard. So priority number 1 is the first person who can see that somebody went overboard. You hold your arm out, all 5 fingers pointed toward that person, and you just keep shouting, man overboard, man overboard, man overboard, for as long as you can see him, because it's really easy for somebody to disappear in the ocean. You hold your other arm up as long as you can, like, visually see the person, and you drop your arm if you can't see them, but you still kind of know where they are. And so we practiced, you know, things like that. And to me, something like that comes naturally because we did a lot of man overboards over the course of all the time that I've spent sailing. And we did like a real man overboard when somebody from a different ship fell into Lake Erie. We did a real man overboard situation. And so, you know, we're teaching the guest crew how to do this. And we take like a 20-minute break and they think it's over. And then, bam, man overboard drill. And all of the guest crew, who are mostly like 65-year-old men and their wives, who just thought this would be a neat experience, are just standing there like blank look on their faces. It's like, guys, 20 minutes ago, we gave you jobs for what's supposed to happen. What you're supposed to do. Like, Alvin, go throw a life ring, dude. Like, please. You have one job. I don't trust them with my life. I wouldn't either. I would not trust them with my life. Just more generic pictures. We were at the dock for this picture. It's not especially interesting. Hey, Viv, nice to see ya. How you doing? Okay, you can make fun of me all you like. We passed a lot of these, we were by like a giant Navy thing, so we passed like aircraft carriers and all that sort of stuff. I took a picture of this because the ship's name is Richard McCool Jr., and I thought it was funny that the ship was called Dick McCool Jr. Make fun of me if you want. You can see that ship's butthole. So we passed like a ton of those. Also, don't tell anybody, but we ran into this ship. I already don't remember what the ship's name is called. The Mystique or something, maybe? Yeah, whoops. It was a combination of the current and the wind. You can see that we were pulling in to get diesel because the ship does have a motor. We just didn't use it. But, you know, it's really helpful to have a motor for, like, docking. That's much, much easier. So we were pulling in to get diesel before we left. And the combination of the current and the wind. I mean, it's literally like watching a car crash in slow motion because the ship is going like 3 miles an hour. But you see it going and you're like, I mean, we're gonna hit that ship in like 2 minutes, but there's nothing we could do about it. We just gave them the teeniest, tiniest little tap. Captain basically got it out of the way. Garbage trucks on ice. And we did go back. Rest assured, we went back and we were like, hey, we tapped your ship, sorry. So, just, you know, more sunset stuff. As you do. We stayed in port overnight for the first night. Here's swabbing the deck. That's a real thing. You do actually have to do that. And that was, I think, the very first thing that our watch was doing, if I recall. We were the first swabbies once we left. I prefer this task to basically any other task on the ship. It's simple. It's pleasing in the same way that like not supermarket simulator, power wash simulator is, you know? Just a little ship kiss. Yes, just a little smooch. So all you do is you take these brushes, right? Somebody's on the hose and is wetting the ship because you never, ever, ever brush the ship when it's not wet. So they run the hose, they get it wet, and then you take your little brush and just back and forth, never parallel with the grain, always perpendicular. And you get all this gunk out, and it's wonderful and pleasing, and I like it a lot. So we were schwabbing, and that was nice, and all. Let's see what other pictures we've got. Hey, here's the first mate. There's Mr. Brennan. He is wearing a hat. It's just not a beanie. Yeah, I gotta give the ship brushies. Gotta give him little brushies. Here's a bunch of sail pictures, if you wonder what this ship actually looks like. So this is the mainmast up here, and I'm sorry. I've done it again. The foremast and the mainmast. Behind us is the mizzenmast, which was also set, just not in this picture. But was Sable Lars the whole time. The whole time. If you're curious, because a lot of people don't know what these are, these little goobers hanging off of the lines are called baggy wrinkles. They are there to stop the lines from chafing against the sail. So yeah, we had sail up the vast majority, actually all of the trip except for in port. And you can see like the sail is already full. It's got this nice curve. They're still raising it down here, but we had really nice wind the whole time, which to some extent was maybe not as nice in the sense that the ship was wildly heeling, but we have this lovely picture. This is Tatiana, the second mate, throwing out this long rope. It's technically a line. To help get these staysails out. The staysails are... Do we still have Denny up here? These are the staysails. These ones that attach to the front of the ship out on the prow. The ones that you can see in that picture are the back two. The very, very front one is not out there. Lovely, beautiful sails from our lovely, beautiful lady. This, I did this. This is called a Ballantine coil. And I'm good at these. So one of my tasks throughout the trip, when I was just, you know, when you putz around on a ship, you just go find things to do, right? You don't, if you're crew and not guest crew, you don't typically just sit around. Even if it's not your watch, if you're awake and you see things that need to be done, you go do them. So you don't usually want to leave lines on the deck in a pile. You either want to stow them up back on the pin if they're not going to be used, or you do things like this. A working coil or a ballantine, depending. A ballantine, the purpose is it's woven in such a way that should the line start to move, like it starts pulling on this pile of rope, it's not going to get tangled. It'll untangle itself naturally using these little mini loops so that nothing ever gets snagged. That is the purpose of a ballantine. So I would go around and, like, you can see, I would just go around and, like, ballantine all these all these stacks while everybody else was working. Pretzel! It's a ship pretzel! Ooh. This is an interesting little thing. A little point of sailing maneuvering. This back thing, I'm using my hands as if you can see me. This back thing, which on a square rigged ship, this looks like a spanker. But this is, for what I can see, yeah, this is one of the, like, main sails. It's one of these boys, right? One of these middle ones. That's facing to starboard. And the one in front of it, this one, is facing to port. That's happening because we're jibing, which is a cool ship maneuver. It's the opposite of tacking, where, say the wind is coming from right behind you, okay? And you're coming into it from the left. So it's hitting the right side of the ship, right? When you jibe, you flip so that the ship, the left side of it, the port side, is now hitting the wind. You move the butt of the ship from one side to the other through the wind when the wind is coming up from behind you. Like I said, it's the opposite of attack, which is where you move the front of the ship through the wind, and you basically switch sides, what side the wind is coming from. So we were in the middle of a jibe here, which is why one sail is acting like the wind is coming from port and one sail is acting like it's coming from starboard, right? Because we're in the middle of switching it from one side to the other. Insert MS Paint diagram, right? I thought about it Do I have paint? Hold on. Hold on. JS Paint. Watch me. Watch me. You ready for this? Have a diagram. Here's the wind, okay? And your boat is going this way. A jibe is when you take your boat, you take the butt of your boat back here, and you move it like this. So the butt goes in that pattern, and it goes through the wind and goes the other direction. There you go. Which is the opposite of attack, when the wind is coming from in front of you and your boat is, you know, facing into it. If you're facing like this, and this is the butt of the boat, you move and face like this. That's attack. There you go. You happy? So jibing is very, very intensive, which is why I could only take a picture and not so much take a video. Because, you know, you're kind of in the middle of something. It's coming from the other way. Exactly. Yes, it's coming from the other way. Also, check out this big military boy that we got to sail along for a while. He was just kind of hanging out. We passed a ton of these, I tell you. Where is the... I could have sworn... Yeah. Again, I'm gonna probably grab the volume here once this loads, but... It's never gonna load, turns out, is the answer. There we go. Oh, it's struggling. It's riding the difficulty bus today. There we go. Number 3! Way to go, number 3. So yeah, I mean, we passed a ton of these. All along the way. Actually, I'll show you. We passed... Where does he live? We passed a lot of these... Everybody stop to take a look at this. We passed a lot of these container ships, which I couldn't really convey in video just how large these were. And how long we sailed beside them without passing them, you know, like they were gargantuan. And there was truly no way to capture on video. There was no way to capture on video how massive those things were. Let's see, what else we got here? We got some lighthouses, which is part of... They were super far away, which is obviously why this picture sucks. They were really, really far away. But that's Hatteras, you know, that's sailing around Hatteras. The lighthouse is kind of the iconic thing. So when you sail around Hatteras, Cape Hatteras, you earn your lighthouse if you would like to get a tattoo. This was for the log. That's not actually important. I don't have a picture of the log. I do have this little bird, though. Again, I could only capture him for like 5 seconds because I was in the middle of eating when he...
I think he slid right past me.
Yeah. There you go. Like 5 little seconds of a bird.
I think he slid right
But what happened was... There he is. Little birdie here. We were just in the middle of the ocean. Absolutely nothing happening. And then I was sitting next to a guy named Mark, one of the guest crew. And out of nowhere, this little bird just splatters into his face. Just full, like it was a cartoon, you know, just front right on his face and flops down onto the deck. I don't know how long exactly, Chassis. I don't know how long that poor bird was flying, but I think he saw this ship and he was like, oh, thank God. You know? He was so tired. He could barely hold his wings up. So he stayed with us for like a day, resting. And he did eventually leave, but I felt really bad that he just crash landed on our ship. So here's some navigation stuff, which is cool and exciting. What you're seeing here is, if I can, whoop, you're seeing the course. that we've taken, right? And yes, these little metal things do exist. You always see them in cartoons, right? Where they like walk them across a map and it all seems so fancy. That is actually a thing. That is a thing that occurs, and it is a thing that you have to learn how to do. They don't just do it because it looks cool. And so navigation is one thing that I am good at. And in fact, you can see that this 1500 3327 is my handwriting. So I was the one who did the most recent coordinate thing. So the triangles with the dot in the middle is our actual GPS coordinate. And we can see that because the ship has a GPS on it. And so that's what these are plotting over time. You can see that we're drifting a little bit back and forth as the wind and the currents and everything are happening. And the numbers next to it, like this one, for example, says 0900. So at 9 a.m., we were at 3299. And here we are at 3309, 3315, 3319. So that's showing us like how far we're going, right? Like between 3309 and 3315, obviously we've gone 6 miles. You know, so that's what we're tracking here. Down here, you'll see in the areas, specifically here, where I started to work, we were working on teaching how to dead reckon and how to chart a course. Dead reckoning is what you do when, say that you have all of this history, right, about all these other places that you've been, and suddenly your GPS doesn't or your GPS stops working or whatever. And you're like, wow, I need to know where I am, but there's no way for me to know that anymore. So you take the information that you have from all these other points, and through a extremely complicated math process, which I'm sure you're surprised that I can accomplish, you can calculate where your next place is going to be. But you have to do it at the top of the hour, you know, or at least you have to do it matching the rest of these, which is why all of these are done at the top of the hour. Or for the greatest level of accuracy. So I can show you later the calculation that goes into doing the dead reckoning. But a dead reckoning on a map like this looks like these. It looks like these dots with the half circle instead of the things with the triangles around them. And then you can see from here, there's 2 dead reckonings. So somebody plotted a course here that indicated that at this point, at 1200 3315, had we kept going in the direction that we were going, this is where we would have ended up. And again, I did this one where we changed and went down here in this plotted course. I'm good at those kind of things. I like those kind of things. And so I did lots of navigation, and I was showing, you can see this is obviously an old man's hand. I was showing, I think that was Mark again, how to do this. Because you use these little protractors against the bottom of the map here. You want to get really into it. Hey Hanzo, nice to see ya. How you doing? This is why they invented Google Maps. Yep. Sailors in the 15th century were like, man, this sucks. What if? So down here, if you're curious about the nitty gritty, right? Of course, this hand is covering this point. I believe this is 77 degrees longitude. And this map assumes that it takes 60 minutes to go 1 degree of longitude. So all of these, 10, 20, etc., these are minutes. You can see that there's 2 open squares, and then 2 squares with a line through, and then 2 open, and then 2 with a line through. Each of those is a minute. So you have 10 minutes in between 10 and 20, and so on and so forth. And so there's an hour's worth of minutes in between each longitude. Is that why they're called minutes and seconds? So you use these, right, with your protractor to calculate your GPS, right? You know, that's how you know where to line your protractor up. I can't quite see. This is the 35th latitude. So it looks like they're at like 27-ish. But that's how you know where to line your protractor up. Is you're using the minutes on the bottom. You don't just throw it around willy-nilly, right? See, like here. This is, what are we looking at? Oh, it's the 75th. My bad. So this is what? Probably 17-ish minutes. And then you're tracing it up. And you can see this is how they're making these marks up here. The navigation is fun, is my point. I like navigation. Here's the whole map together. And this is how you read GPS coordinates, right? What else do we got here that I could show you? Lovely map. You'll love to see it. This is me out on the head rig, which again, we can look at what this looks like. This, I can make it bigger, can't I? Nope, not really. This part out here is the head rig, right? That's where I was standing. Hey, Miles, nice to see you. How you doing, hero? So I was standing out here, right? That's part of the job of a topman, which is my role. We go out and we climb things. That's what we do. So that's where I was. I was out here. I'm not as close to the ship as I look because we were working with, whoopsie, this second head sail. So I was standing basically like right here. A little more than halfway out. It just doesn't look like it because of the angle. We were flaking sails, which, I don't know, is there such a thing as a picture of that happening? Here we go. This is what flaking a sail looks like. This. So when you stow a sail, you kind of zigzag it over itself like that, and then you wrap it up real nice and tight so that it doesn't all get into like this weird bunch, this gross bunch. And that's what we were doing, which is why you can see like right next to me, this sail is like nice and wrapped up. And you can actually see the one behind me as well. We had flaked that one already, so it's got this nice little curve already. And of course, 30 minutes later, the captain changed his mind, and he was like, "Well, actually, I think we're gonna sail with those out." So they went and undid all my stuff. So that's very unhelpful. This. Number one, it's red light because we're in the navigation room, and at this point, it's like 2 a.m. because ships work on 4-hour shifts. So Charlie Watch, at some point was up at like 2. And this is what we were doing in the navigation room at 2 a.m. You still have to take your navigation every hour, top of the hour. But we use red light because it doesn't interfere with your night vision. So if we just turned on like a regular flashlight to look at this stuff, as soon as we turn the flashlight off, we would have that like moment of like, oh, I can't see anything, right? If you use red light, your eyes stay adjusted. You can go in and out side without messing with your vision. This whole thing is how you calculate what I was talking about earlier. You have to take your compass heading, which is outside at the helm, which is to the left of this room. Observatories use red light for the same reason, really? I guess that makes sense, huh? So you take your compass heading, you have to take your deviation, which there's like charts next to the navigation table that tells you all of the information that you need to know about things like that. The magnetic stuff I don't... Let me see. Sailing map. Can I find an example? Well, okay, basically this. This works. So on... I'm still gonna keep looking, though. On a map... Oh, here we go. This is perfect. This is a really old map, but it accomplishes the same thing. And in fact, it's similar to where we just were in the world. So in the middle of a sailing map, and I can go back and look and see if you can see it on ours, there will be a circle that has like a... looks like a compass, has a bunch of degrees around it, and it'll have things that say, like, you know, here's the date that the map was made, here's the yearly variation based on... because north isn't always north, right? There's a little bit of variation in, like, where north is moving every year over time. Do you actually compute the variation from magnetic shift? Yes. Yes, you do. That's what we're doing by doing this. So you take a look at the map, you take a look at what it's telling you, like, this is where the magnetic shift is happening, like how much per year. The map that we had was from 2013, so we had to calculate it based on, you know, if it was 3 degrees every year for 12 years, that's going to be 36 degrees, you know, things like that. And so you calculate all this magnetic stuff, you calculate how it's changed, and you shove it all together into your math equation, which I have written here. I wrote it down specifically to try to be able to explain it. While I was on the ship, I was like, here, let me just write this down. So you take your compass. Our heading at the time was 240. That was the ordered heading. That was... the captain said, I want you to steer 240. Deviation can be found on a chart next to the map. That comes from, like, you know, the National Oceanic Administration, you know. And that's how you come up with the total number that you need so far. You look at the magnetic variation on the map. Apparently, I wrote down what that was, which was from... yeah, it was 2013, 3 degrees annual increase. So we have 12 years, 3 degrees per year, 36. And then you take all your other numbers, add them together, and then the problem that you encounter is that, you know, in this case, the information that I had on the map at the time, which you can't see all of it, gave me the answer of 9 degrees, 81 minutes. That's not possible because there's not 81 minutes in an hour, right? And we're calculating this by hour. So you have to convert this to minutes. So we went from 9 degrees 81 to 10 degrees 21, right? And that became our answer, 10 degrees 21. And I know that makes no sense if you're not doing it, but that's how you do it. Here's a nice picture of the ocean to break the monotony of all the math. Shout out to Noah, right? So, I love navigation. I love doing the little walkies with the thing and, you know. But now it makes sense why we use it, right? So these waves, I think that people tend to underestimate until you're on a ship how much the ship moves based on the waves. These probably don't look like very big waves. These are decent. These are decent sized waves. I'm glad you had such an adventure. Thank you, Hanzo. Yeah, it was certainly a lot of fun. And then we caught some fish. Here's some fish that we caught off the back of the boat. We just had lines like trailing off the back of the boat. And we went over like a little reefy thing and the fish were like, yeah, love this. And here's the captain. This is Captain Sean Flynn with one of the fish. They were called amberjacks. And we ate them. They went from swimming to being consumed in curry in like 30 minutes. We loved them very much. Thank you for your sacrifice, my dear fish. Sean Flint, like, for real, like, what a great captain name, you know? It was very fun to catch fish, though. I am very glad that we were able to do that. More funky clouds, you know, that's how it go. Obviously, things like the sunsets and everything were lovely. And of particular note here, you can see that the deck is mostly empty. 2 reasons. Number 1, we were actively sailing, so a lot of the stuff that would normally be on deck is not because it's all being used, right? And number 2, the only person here is this person who is standing forward lookout. All of the other watches are probably at this point in the day either eating or sleeping. So there's like 5 people, right, on deck, one of whom is standing forward lookout for an hour. What else do we got? Nice sunset. But yeah, I mean, that's fairly choppy water. I know that it probably doesn't look especially, you know, there's not like these towering waves or anything, but your boat is going to be schmoovin' back and forth in that water. What else we got? I tried to take a picture of the moon, like off the bow. Just, you can never get moon pictures, you know? Or like any stars really, which, okay. So I know that these pictures are garbage, but they're close enough. The ship is moving, and obviously to do like a long exposure or something to capture stars, you need to be standing perfectly still. And since the ship is tilting side to side, obviously I couldn't do that. So I've just got like this, but my point is, I kind of like these little swirlies. You can see like all of this is the Milky Way. Just like in between our masts. I'm looking straight up between 2 masts. So even though I couldn't get a clear picture, like you can still see like here's the horizon, here's the Milky Way, and here's the Ratlins, which are the things that lead up. That's what you climb when you want to go up above. So even though they're blurry, like you can still see. Yeah, it was very beautiful. And at the time that we were out there was a meteor shower also. So, you know, we were standing forward watch and just seeing these meteors. There was one, like I swear to God, it zipped through the sky, and then it took a solid like 2 or 3 seconds for its trail to disappear. It was a big boy. And it was really cool, you know, to be able to be standing night watch and see that. Another obviously very beautiful sunset. You get the picture. It was very lovely. Now, we start to get into where things began to suck. The first couple days, the weather was nice. We were close-ish to, like, we couldn't see land. We were probably, you know, 20 miles off of the coast. Things were fine. Yeah, the waves were, you know, you're rolling a little bit, but you're fine. And then we get basically around Hatteras and into the graveyard of the Atlantic, and then immediately you start to see why so many ships sink there. It became a nightmare. And this was the point where a lot of the professional crews started to get seasick, which says something, right? Because these are people who sail for months and months at a time, and they are hurling off of the side of the boat. My seasickness was already done by that point. My seasickness came from the first night with these red lights on down in, if I can find Mr. Chadwick again, where are you? Here. Down in the galley. The red lights turn on in the galley as well, and one of the tasks that you do, depending on what time your watch comes on, is you clean the galley, or you prepare the galley for the next meal, or whatever. The red lights will be on if it's nighttime, right? And you can't see it, but if this camera view looking into the galley is me, then behind my head, hanging from the ceiling, are two, like, nets that have fruit in them. So as to not make the fruit, like, rot by putting it in a cabinet, right? You have them in hanging nets on the ceiling. So, be me at 2 a.m. looking at this room in red light. The ship is just pitching aggressively side to side. The galley itself is moving aggressively side to side, and me with it. The other people on my watch in the galley who are cleaning are moving in all sorts of different directions on their own. The nets are not following the sway of the ship because they're nets that are hanging. And so there's like 15 things in my view that are all moving at different paces and at different angles. And my brain was just like, nope, I don't understand this. I am floating in space. Stop. So that was why I barfed off the side of the ship. Because that one, like, perfect storm of everything just blew my brain to smithereens, you know? So it wasn't this part where the sea started to get really aggressive. But I'm trying to find, I have it over here. Which one is it? You can see, like, this was my view. Again, it's not very long because I was standing forward lookout and the ship was moving aggressively. But you can see, right? Like, watch how slidey that is, right? We took like a big swoop there. And we're up and down. We dive down, we stay down, swoop, you know? And it doesn't look like much, but it just really, really is aggressive. Here's another one. I think this is the one that I showed in my Discord. Let me pause it real quick. So you can see here the line that is the horizon. This is the ocean. Watch how high, like, it disappears, right? Because we dip down so low. And then it vanishes because we go so high. And then it vanishes because we go so low. And it vanishes because we go so high. You know, like, we are rolling so aggressively. Let's whip out this, whip out my, my Microsoft Paint again. If you're looking at a ship from the back, right? It looks like this. And this is you, right? Like, standing on the deck. The ship was regularly angled like this in the water. If this is the water, right? It was in the water. Just to make no mistake, it was in the water. So the people on deck are having to stand like this, right? In order to balance. Which is why I couldn't really take video, because I am standing with my feet braced on this railing with all the pins on it sometimes. You know? So, like, right now, for this video, I have my camera in one hand, and with the other hand, I am clinging onto a box that is right here and, like, hooking my hand over it and recording with the other hand. Because I'm basically hanging, you know? So, again, videos just don't really capture just how aggressively the ship is moving, you know? And we dealt with that for quite a while. It was at that point that I felt really bad for the guest crew, because obviously they were not at all equipped to handle that. There was this poor woman, her name was Judy. I want to say she was like 75. And she just spent a solid 3 days just with a bucket in her hands, because she just could not stop getting seasick while we were dealing with this ocean, you know? And I felt so bad for her. Like, she couldn't keep food down. And of course, her first instinct, right, is like, I want to go lay down in my bunk. But No, like you can't do that. You're going to feel so much worse if you go and lay down in your bunk. The best way to combat seasickness is to eat something and to be up on deck and just look at the horizon, because the horizon always stays still, right? So that helps your brain calibrate that you're not moving as aggressively as you think, or like it might feel like. Did you have your camera rigged to shoot 5 seconds with one press? Yeah, it depended, you know. A lot of the times these videos are so short because I turned my camera on when I had access to both hands and then just like left it running for 2 minutes until I was able to pull it up for a 10-second glimpse, and then I just cut the video down later, you know, into whatever was intelligible. They got a memory all right. You know, good on her. At the end of the trip, she was like, I'm really glad I did this. And it's like, you know, go Judy. Good job. I'm proud of you, you know? I am proud of you for what you did. But you can see somewhere, yeah, like shots like this, where I believe that in this one I even like stumble a little bit because I shouldn't have been recording because we were moving so much. And it doesn't even matter if it plays. The deck itself, yeah, like I can't even stay steady, you know? The deck itself is soaked because a huge wave had just crashed across the entire ship, high enough that it went... This thing on the left here is the captain's cabin, and it's also where you do the navigation. So where we were standing to look at the maps is inside there. A wave had just crashed from the right-hand side, the starboard side, and went all the way across the top of the captain's cabin. So, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of movement happening. I mean, you can see the size of the wake that we were creating, you know, and all of that. We were schmoovin'. Which, speaking of, I did some navigation. Is that why it's called a bucket list? You know what? That would almost make sense. I love doing navigation, and that also means working the helm. The Dennis Sullivan has a wheel as a helm, which is probably what most of you are familiar with, right? Yes, like, it looked like this. I'm used to sailing ships that have a tiller, which... Let's see if we can find a decent example of a tiller that is intelligible and that you would understand how it's being used. I mean, it's basically like this. It's like a big pole, right? At the back of the ship. Steering with a tiller is just steering backwards. So if you move the tiller to starboard, you will go to port. Oh, hey, it's literally talking about this in this image, right? So it's backwards, but with a helm, it's correct. If you turn to the right, you'll go to the right. So it was kind of nice, I guess, to have an actual, you know, wheel. But I spent a decent amount of time at the helm steering the ship because it's something that I'm good at. And we were under not full sail. Again, let's look at our baby girl here. We had all of these bottom sails, essentially. We had the 3, you know, intermediary, like here's the main and all that. We had the head sails out. We just didn't have the reefee and these 2 top sails. But we had everything else. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sails out of 10. And I was helming that during those waves. And I'm very proud of myself. I got the ship up to 8.7 knots by, you know, just kind of working us into the currents there a little bit. And that's it. I know it doesn't seem very fast, but, you know, Dennis Sullivan motoring with sails is going to reach, you know, like 12. So that was pretty darn good. And the captain was impressed. So, good for me. It was frustrating, you know? Like, on the one hand, it's fun to be at the helm when things like that are happening, but it's also extremely frustrating because you're watching, I think I certainly have a picture. Here you go. You're watching this compass. Like, this is, you know, a foot in front of me at the helm. And so, if the captain says, for example, on this compass, this would be course, what, like 27? So if captain says, steer 27, this is what he means. This is the direction he wants you to be steering in. And until you do it yourself, it's difficult to parse how easy it is if you're steering 27 to suddenly be steering 350. Just within like 10 seconds, you can just be schmoving over to 350. It is really easy when the waves are like that for the waves to just wrench the ship in a direction, right? And then you have to get back to your path. And that's exhausting. Like, it takes, that helm is heavy. You know, turning it by the spokes takes physical effort. Like, you have to hoist with your whole body to move the spokes. So when you are fighting with the ocean to stay at 27, you know, it takes a lot of physical effort. How do you assess speed on a boat again? There's a couple ways. You can use something like this. I know it's kind of blurry. It's called a chip log. You basically, I'm trying to find like a nicer one, not one that's just a spool. Yeah, kind of like this. But just envision that it's a spool, I suppose, like this. Basically, you take this piece and you throw it off the back of the ship, and then it will pull on this spool and move a little, an indicator that tells you how much drag it's experiencing, and that will translate to how many knots you're going, right? If you're going faster, it'll be more drag, right? Or in our case, you can just look at the screen. You could just look at the radar. Right, when I took this picture, we weren't moving. This SOG means speed over ground, and it's 0.0 knots. So we were not moving when I took this. Odometer 3646, those were the things that you saw on the map earlier when it said like 0900 3415 or whatever. The 3415 was the odometer reading. Taken at 9 a.m., right? I forgot technology is a thing. Yeah, and I mean this screen, as you can see, it's just kind of situated in this little box, and right beneath the box, like down here, is this compass. And then there's like a small gap, like a person-sized gap behind the compass, and then there's the helm, the wheel. So you are able to essentially stand in front of the helm. Let me pull up a picture of a helm again. Okay, good. Not like a fake one, like a real one, please. Where was the picture I was just looking at? This one works. Sure. So yeah, here, perfect. You can see, here's the compass that this person would be looking at. Here's the little person-sized gap, and here's the helm. So you're standing usually in front of the helm, and you take your arms and you hook them behind you, and you move the helm that way. Because that helps you to keep it from moving. And you want it to move a little bit, because you want it to kind of move with the currents. But you don't want it to just jam sideways, right, when you get hit by a wave. So you hook your arms behind the spokes and like hold it in place. And some people will just steer like that also. if the waves are not super intense. But something like this, where this person is standing to the side, you can see the seas aren't very choppy. So they're able to just kind of chill back there. Whoopsie. Stop. Let's see what else we got. I got some videos that I do want to show. Gotta snooze my alarm here. Let's hop into some videos, shall we? Because I think these are going to be among the more fun items. In no particular order. And let me know if they are too loud, of course. Here are just some, like, general workings of the ship, right? Once it loads, of course. I know, they're short, because again, I'm supposed to be, like, working during this time. That one was a little bit quiet because Tatiana, the second mate, who was the one speaking, she is standing over on the right-hand side, far away. She says, haul away together. And what we were doing, which I will pause on the appropriate screen. All the way together, everybody hauls. And then I look up, and you can see that this thing in the middle is what's rising. This is one of the schooner's main sails. And this side of the ship is the peak side. This side is the throat side when it comes to this sail. So the throat is this back part of the sail. The peak is out here in the front. The hauling away together means that this thing stays stable. Both sides of the sail come up at the same time. And that's lovely and great. When this happens, things will be different. They're waiting for a command.
One more. 2-6. That's well throat. All the way, Pete. All the way. 2-6. 2-6. That's well, Pete. Nice got.
So that was, you know, some things were occurring, which is fun, right? So over on the right-hand side, the throat is pulling up. They're hauling away, which I will move the camera in just a second. But you can see the sail kind of moving in response. And what they are doing, you can see, is they are moving these little rings that are attached to the sails up the mast. So they're taking the back part of the sail and they're just like yoink, 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 piece by piece. And I don't know if you could hear them, but Tatiana was shouting 2-6 heave, 2-6 heave. So that's how you keep time so that everybody pulls at the same time with every haul, right? And so they are lifting the back part of the sail, the part that's attached to the mast. And then Tatiana says, that's well throat, which means stop, that looks good. All of you people who are hauling on the throat line. And then she will transition to the peak, which are the people who are over here. They're the ones hauling this part of the sail way out in the distance. All the way, peak, haul away, they say, and then they begin to haul. 2-6 heave, 2-6 heave. That's well, peak. And then, you know, this part of the sail is done. It's now been balanced, and the sail has been set. These were a lot of guest crew, which is why I was not participating, because I was like, there are enough people hauling this line. This is fine, you know. But that's just kind of the basics of how a ship works. Now this is Leo, and I want to specifically shout out Leo here. Up, the one pulling down. Leo is a trans guy. And we had one guy. Can I find him? Is he in a video anywhere? He is not. I thought he might have been here, but that wasn't him. There was one of the older guest crew who kept referring to Leo as she, right? Incorrect pronouns. And Leo was just the most phenomenal guy you've ever met. And was just so understanding, but this other guy kept calling Leo she. Would use Leo's name, presumably because they didn't know any other name to call Leo, right? They didn't have any other options, but kept using she. And, Leo was gracious about it. But I think that it didn't really occur to that person. Like, it was like I don't know how to describe it, I think that when he was corrected about the pronouns, it didn't create a thought in his brain one way or another, He wasn't offended to be corrected, but he also just, it didn't stick. And he was probably, I don't know, 65. And then, he got to know Leo. For example, let me find... Because you're right, Hero, weren't sea shanties originally used to keep time while hauling? I will actually show you that in action with Leo. This... I'm gonna mute this. This video shows a windlass being used. This is, we had dropped the anchor, and this windlass is what you use to pull the anchor back up. This work is hard as hell. And I know the videos are never very long. So you have to keep time, right, with the other people, because otherwise you're not going to be doing it in this perfect, seamless movement, right? In order to get the anchor back up. Yeah, look at the handles flexing, right? That anchor is extraordinarily heavy, and they have to be working in tandem. So yes, that is the purpose of sea shanties. It's to keep you in time for doing work like that. And that's why a lot of things like Wellerman that people associate with being sea shanties are not actually sea shanties. There's something else called four-bitters, which are just fun songs you sing on a ship. And those have their place, but they're not sea shanties. Because shanties are used to keep time. And so Leo was like, okay, we're doing this windlass. We need a shanty. Soon may the Wellerman come. Yeah, it pops right into your head, doesn't it? Leo was like, okay, we need a shanty because people are swapping out. You can't do this windlass for more than a minute or two. It's just too exhausting. So people are swapping out teams of two over and over and over. You need to just be keeping the pace, right? So we need a shanty. So Leo was like, okay, guest crew, come on, we're gonna sing together. Obviously, none of the guest crew is gonna know the words. So Leo went into the little mini library that's right next to the navigation table, and he grabbed some pages that had pre-printed out sea shanties. And he handed them out to the crew, the guest crew, so that they could sing while these people were doing the windlass. And then Leo was going to lead. Now, let me give you a little preface about Leo. Leo is, for lack of a better way of saying it, the most enthusiastically self-actualized person I have ever met. Leo is just on this ship, being a cool dude, but with flair. You know what I mean? Every day he was dressed up in ship appropriate attire, but he always had a bandana or a cravat or something that made him look super classy. And he was just he had such a strong identity, and he was just the kindest and most compassionate person that you've ever met. Enthusiastically self-actualized is a god tier descriptor. He was just the coolest. And what was really cool, especially, he was something called an autodidact, right? So the way he described it was like, if you show him a picture of a sailor's knot, some kind of knot that you use in sailing, and the page shows like how to tie it, he doesn't need to practice. He can just do it. That's what being an autodidact means. He just learns that way. He doesn't need the practice. He just sees it and then he can do it. So here is Leo, who is just so enthusiastic about ships. Like the kind of enthusiastic where it's like he goes into the library at 2 a.m. and just picks up one of the books on knots and is just reading it. You know, like that kind of enthusiastic. And that's just so infectious. You know, he's infectious to everybody around him with that enthusiasm. And so he brought that to every engagement that we had. Anytime you saw him, that was like the vibe. And so the guy who couldn't keep Leo's pronouns straight was like really picking up on that, I think. And here's a perfect example. Leo is trying to lead these guest crew in singing a shanty to help the people at the windlass pulling up the anchor. And just watch, like Leo is so enthusiastic and having a great time. And it's just, he's so Leo, you know what I mean? You'll see what I mean. I hope you can hear. Like he's still watching. He's still like paying attention, right? And he's showing, like, he's sharing the lyrics with these people and being like, sing with me, guys. But he's also watching the windlass. And there's another video I have of him. It might be this one. Where he's, like, simultaneously... Oh, no, this is just the windlass. He's simultaneously, like, watching... Because he's a crew member. Like, he's a professional crew member. So he's watching and he's repeating back commands. And all, like, you can see he just dipped in there at the end to help. And I don't know if you could hear them singing Way Hey and Up She Rises, which is obviously another very famous sea shanty. Oh no, I have a crush on Leo? Everybody has a crush on Leo, okay? So Leo is just enthusiastically singing shanties, and he's like, yeah, come on, guys. And he was just so infectious. And speaking of Leo, he had a beautiful voice. So you heard the guest crew singing Way Hey and Up She Rises, which is a famous shanty. In this first one, Leo is singing Patty Lay Back, which is another famous shanty. And in this one, after we had pulled into port, we were sitting underneath the Charleston Bridge, anchored. And we all got together on deck to just, like, tell stories and sing shanties and forebitters and all that kind of stuff. And Leo, with this voice, just unbelievable, singing Fiddler's Green, which is a really famous sailing song. Leo's the one on the far right.
No more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you someday on Fiddler's Green. Now, Fiddler's Green, oh, I don't need a harp or a halo, not me. Just give me the ship and the big rolling sea.
I want to make him a little
And
louder.
all wires play me old squeeze boxes. We roll along with the wind in the rigging to sing me a song. Dress me up in me oilskins and jumpers. No more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you someday on Fiddler's Green.
Isn't he good? I hope you could hear that. Isn't he so good? He had this beautiful voice. So, like, every time that you saw him, he was just so enthusiastic. Viv. So, over the course of this journey, I think that the guy who kept misgendering Leo, you know, got to know him. And by the end, it was me and that guy and Leo, and we were in the navigation room again. And that guy just made like an offhand comment about how she, Leo, did something I don't even remember. And we both were we didn't say anything besides just he, right? You know, we just looked at him and we were like, he. And it was like all of a sudden, the light just came on in his brain. And he was like, oh, right. And then from then on, never a problem again. It was, you know, he kind of acknowledged, like, I just got to know Leo, and Leo was just Leo. You know? And it was really nice to see that. It was really nice to see that. I feel bad for Leo in the sense that, like, he had to deal with somebody, like, seemingly not... Like, they had to get to know him first in order to treat him the way he wanted to be treated, but at the same time, you know, that guy got to a better place, you know? By the end, he got to a better place. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud that he made that change. So good on him, I suppose. What other videos did I have that I wanted to show? I mean, I've showed this one, I think. The one of Leo just assisting with the hauling. But like, look, he's got the little red cravat, and it's like, why are you so stylish in the middle of a boat? You know? So yeah, I mean, you saw the windlass. What is this video that I have created for myself? Oh, this is just a view of the deck from up aloft. And there's Leo again. Leo was also aloft with me. Does Leo know he has a fan club? Is there Leo merch? I know, right? Oh, Leo was just like such a pivotal part of the ship. That's a note from me. So that's my job, right? Like, my job is to be a topman who goes up and... Oh, an unexpected error occurred. How dare you? Me videos. Well, try me. I'll do it from over here instead. Once it loads. So yeah, my job is to be up here. I'm dealing with sales. Right then, I was dealing with the Rafie. And obviously I'm holding on to something, which is why I need to struggle to have that in my hand. But you can see there's the ratlins that I climbed. I'm way up off the deck. I have to brace the phone on my knee. But I mean, I'm all up in those ropes because that is my job. And again, I'm doing this camera thing one-handed. Hey Draco, can you recap where you were sailing to and from for those of us who joined late? Of course. I started in... I can show you. There you go. I started in... Come on now. Norfolk, which a bunch of people called Norfolk, and now I'm confused about whether that's what it is. And then we went way... Where are we? Oh boy. Way out into the ocean. There we go. Way out into the ocean, did some fancy footwork, and ended up in Charleston. So we went around Cape Hatteras, essentially. And right here, all the way out, essentially into here, is the most dangerous part of the Atlantic to sail through. So basically from here until here, we were sailing through that garbage stuff, which is why you suddenly see us go, oh, good, and then go back into a straight line. You know, like all of this, we kind of freak out for a minute because it's where the graveyard of the Atlantic exists, and it like conflicts with the Gulf Stream, which is why it's so yikes. Let's see what Sable gets up to when they leave the house. Like those dog videos where their faces are just like distorted because they're holding one in their mouth. So yeah, doing all of this aloft work, like here's Leo again up there. Doing all of this aloft work is my favorite thing to do on a ship, like by far. Very, very much enjoy that. But obviously it's not everybody's cup of tea. And I get that. Now, one thing that I did want to show, and I saved it kind of toward last, because I thought it was funny and wonderful, is this video. We had to weigh anchor a couple times. And that's what the windlass was for, right? Like that back and forth thing is to pull the anchor up, so obviously we had dropped the anchor. Now let me show you this. No. You don't get to say an unexpected error occurred because I want to show this video. I believe it's this one. Just gotta let it load for a second. So in order to drop the anchor, there we go. Perfect shot here. In order to drop the anchor, you need to have all of this chain for the anchor flaked or like laid back and forth in very, very neat lines, because obviously if it snags, that's bad news for everybody. That's real bad. So you need that chain to be coming out, or like, you know, when the anchor drops and it's pulling the chain, it needs to pull it perfectly, or you're gonna like really damage the ship. So we had been laying out this chain in these perfect little rows, and the captain gave the order to drop the anchor, and this is what happened. And the sound of it is just, oh, it's so pleasing. And my favorite part is it was the first mate that you heard at the end being like, ha ha! And I regret, stopping the video there, because he said yaha very excitedly, and then he said woohoo, anchors away. And I wish that I had the anchors away part in the video. It was just very funny. So the yaha lives rent free in my brain. It was very cute. But yeah, it's so, again, like Power Wash Simulator, you know, just watching those things zigzag back and forth is just very, very fun to watch. Of course, the fun is mitigated by the fact that then you know you have to haul that dang thing back up. But for a little while, it's fun. Mario sounds, exactly. Also, can I show you real quick? This thing here, where this chain is coming out, this is what goes to the chain locker, which, you know, when you're not using the anchor, the vast majority of the chain is down in here. And then there's a kind of like a, I don't know, tube, kind of hooks, like a lowercase r, off of here so that you don't step into this hole. And I would like you to take a guess, based on my chubby little legs that I took a picture of later, where you think that might have been in relation to my shins. I pulled my shorts up here to show you just how many goddamn times I bashed my knees and my shins into that thing. It's called a Starts with an S. A spurler? The thing that goes to the chain locker on a ship. Spurler. Spurling? Spurling? Spurling tube. I'm so close. I don't remember what it's called. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I'll figure it out 2 seconds after I hit exit on the stream, after I end stream. So yeah, I mean that was basically ship time. Here's a view from aloft. Like yeah, there's Leo. And here were some of the, you know, the pro crew going up there. There was the windlass, us doing the windlass. We came into Charleston, had this lovely view of the Charleston Bridge. This is where we were anchored for the night. Yeah, the pride flag! Hero, we'll see if this plays. Yeah, no, I don't know why Drive just doesn't want to play. Again, it's like a 3-second video. Because of course it is. But we've got pride flag, Black Lives Matter flag, World Ocean School flag, and then the flag in the back here is the Menominee flag, which is a Native American tribe that donated the masts to the ship. And Alvin, shush. So this ship is the only place that you can see the Menominee flag outside of their Menominee Nation. It is the singular flag outside of there because of their relationship with the Dennis Sullivan. So yeah, pride flag, obviously. Black Lives Matter flag. It was wonderful. Denny is such a lovely ship. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously 50,000 things that I could talk about. About sailing. But I think that basically just covers the broad strokes. Oh, here's the navigation room. I took a picture at night with the red light and everything. Here's where the maps usually are. This is where the captain sleeps. This is the, you know, computer screen that shows some of the navigation stuff. What you're seeing here on the screen, this thicker red line is the ship, and the big circle is the safe zone where we're anchored. So part of watch, whenever you're on watch, is you're doing, you know, the navigation and all this. This is the ship's log, which you can't really see, but you're checking like the bilges and you're flicking these things on to make sure that all the batteries aren't about to explode or something. And part of your job is to check this and make sure that the ship hasn't drifted outside of its safe zone while at anchor, you know? There's a lot of things that you're meant to do. But our final night on the ship, since we were in Charleston, we all just, yeah, we got together and we did, like, we just sat on the deck, we put up these little fairy lights and sang shanties. Here's Leo, exhausted, sang shanties and told stories and stuff. Down here is the hatch to the galley. And so we took they're called chocks or chucks. These things, you use these to put the smaller boats on the deck. Let me see if I have a shot with one of the smaller boats in it so you know what I'm talking about. Right toward the beginning there should be one, I think. Show me. Where? I swear that I have like a shot. It's just like straight up the... Oh, but of course there's not a boat in it. Anyway, Denny has 2 small boats that sit on the deck when you're underway. Oh yeah, here's one. We don't even need to like watch the video, although we can. So over here, you can see there's this whole like red boat that's sitting on deck. But if you obviously just leave it to sit on the deck, it's just going to roll back and forth and scrape things up and cause damage. So you use these things underneath it. You set the ship or the little boat on these things, and then you can see they kind of have a little divot to hold the boat in place on the deck. So we made a little campfire out of them. We for coziness purposes, we stacked them all up, and then we went and got a couple of headlamps, like red light headlamps to be used at night. And we turned them on. They have a flash setting, like a strobe setting for if you're in an emergency. And so we threw them underneath the wood there with the flashing to make it like a little fire. And we made this cozy little campfire on deck. Just for fun, you know. And then we just like sang shanties, and Leo captivated everybody with the angelic nature of his voice. So basically my entire ship story boils down to the waves were really high. I did a lot of stuff up above that I couldn't take pictures or video of because the ship was flying all over the place, and Leo was the goat, and everybody had a crush on Leo. That's the moral of this story. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I could talk about this for hours, but I won't keep you. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my goofy ship stories. Fish. Little fish. Yes, no, I had fun. I had fun for sure. I am let me find like a lovely little. Do I have like a little video of just chilling up on the bow? Yeah, like maybe just this one. Maybe just this one. We'll just chill with this one. Actually, listen to it real quick, because I'm sure you'll be able to hear like all the cool creaks and everything that are just like normal on a ship. Let me get the. That's kind of loud, isn't it? Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear like the actual creaking and everything, but whoopsie. Yeah, whoops. Ships do tend to creak. You might have heard the little bell go off. That's just the Denny's regular bell going off because the wind was so strong. Yeah, the creaks are so pleasing. So this is what it looks like to be on Forward Lookout for an hour, you know? But thanks for hanging out, everybody. You know that I love boats. You know that I love talking about boats. This will not be the last time that I will be helping my friends on a ship, I am sure. I would like for the journey next time to maybe not be quite as fraught with gigundo waves that were making us stand sideways. But, you know, I'll be back out on a boat helping my friends again, I am sure. Because, much to my own surprise, most people don't like going aloft, which I don't understand. It seems like by far the most superior part of being on a ship, so I guess I will embrace my role as topman and continue to help my friends, you know? I would love to try it sometime. You totally should. It's just so wonderful. And as you can see by the 65-year-old people who were on deck, and despite barfing for 3 days straight, said that they had a great time, you can start from just about anywhere, you know? So if you ever have an interest in being on a boat, just try being on a boat. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? You might barf a little bit. You'll be okay, I believe. Now I am gonna actually turn that source off. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the normal stream layout, because we are going to choose somebody to raid. Who we shall be raiding, I don't know. How long has Liz been streaming? If anybody is streaming with friends. Oh, Dragon Sage, I still forgot to turn on Lars. I'm sorry. I forgot to turn on Lars. But yeah, if any of you have friends who are streaming, let me know. Yeah, really, really longathon is just on a rerun. Oh, you know what? We haven't rated Hypno for a while. Let's see if he's almost done. He just started a run. He's 18 minutes in. The splits say an hour 38, so he should be around for a while playing retro. So thank you so much for hanging out, everybody, and for indulging in my niche hobby. I am always happy to talk about boats. You know that. But I'll be back on Thursday playing Unravel 2, which is a game I'm familiar with but have never actually played on my own. So I don't really remember any of the puzzle solutions, I don't think. So it'll basically be just as if I'm playing it for the first time. So say hi to Hypno when you get over there. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you later. Bye!